Now, I wanted to start with Ruth, not just because Shavuot's coming, but if you look in the first pasuk of Ruth, right? V'hi b'yimei shvot hashoftim, okay? So in some ways, and I think as we read through definitely the first parak, you'll feel like we're really in the same time. Like meaning like we're talking similarly, we're speaking similarly. Now, I did bring a few midrashim just as a hasdana. Are you taking another one?
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to like first of all, like for instance from Ruth Rabba, just to, again see how Chazal see it coming. There's a reason we start the book with V'hi Shmot HaShoftim. And it's actually a midrash that we talked about a while ago with Yoshua, but I think it also reflects a little bit Shoftim time, which I think we're going to feel familiar. So in the Tichta of midrash is that before they start going through the psukim, we have some introductions. V'hi b'yimei shvot hashoftim atzela tapil tardima. Okay, that's a pasuk in Mishlei. Al yedei shenitzlu Israel la'asot gmul chesed leYoshua. Okay, so how did they not do chesed with him? There was a midrash that they didn't come when he was buried. Yoshua, who was their major leader, they didn't respect him enough, and they didn't come enough to bury him. Why? And I'm skipping a few lines. באותה שעה נחלקה ארץ ישראל והייתה חילוקה חביבה להם יותר מדי. Okay, they just divided the land, and they were just too happy. They were too enjoying it too much. The chalukah of Eretz Israel. והיו ישראל עוסקים במלאכתם. They were each like dealing with their own land and their own business. זה עוסק בשדה, זה עוסק בכרמו, זה עוסק בזיתה. Like everybody's dealing with whatever they're dealing with, but they didn't have the ability to come as a nation and give Yoshua his respect. Now again, there's another midrash which I didn't bring about the Sanhedrin, that they didn't go city to city and teach them to keep Torah. They didn't teach them how to be everybody to themselves, and I think we really saw it. We actually saw the antithesis of it in Pilatus Magiva, that they all suddenly come together, but that's in order to fight their brothers. Like it's like everybody's being selfish, and they do come together for all reasons. Okay, so that's one, and we're going to see how that fits in with Ruth in the next few psukim. Now, part of the Hazmah. So who wrote Ruth? Shmuel, okay. Shmuel כתב ספרו, שופטים ורות. Okay?
Wait, he wrote his book even though
the first one.
Dead.
He wrote this, so they say that he wrote the first Shmuel Aleph, like the first part, till he died. Either he did B'Nevu'ah, the rest, or I think actually in a different source it says that Gad HaChozeh wrote down the rest of it. Meaning, Gad HaChozeh. He was the Navi at the time of Shmuel. Shmuel and on Shoftim time, I don't know if you remember, it said like there wasn't a lot of Nevuah. Actually, that's going to be at the beginning of Shmuel, it says. But and then once Shmuel comes into the picture, suddenly Nevuah picks up. Okay? So there's more Nevi'im, and then Gad HaChozeh is a Navi, there's many more Nevi'im, and throughout Melachim there's also going to be Navi. So Shmuel writes his book, so he wrote Shmuel, the parts at least till he dies, or B'Nevuah the rest, but probably just till he dies. He wrote Shoftim, which is an important thing to know, because like he's trying to show what was Mekulkal and what needed to be fixed. And he wrote Ruth. Now, why does he write Ruth? Why would he want to write Ruth? Okay. It's time of Shoftim, it's a Tikkun. Any other idea? What happens during Shmuel? Okay, so those some of us have read Shmuel before, some haven't. In Shmuel, he is chosen. He's chosen as a Navi. He's the last Shofet. And the Am asks him for a king. And he chooses Shaul. Shaul doesn't work out. And then he chooses David. Okay? He chooses David. Hashem sends him to Limshoch et David. Now, Shmuel loved Shaul, and David, it doesn't say that he spent a lot of time with David. Like, he spent a bit of time with David. It was very hard for him when it didn't work out with Shaul. However, when Shaul, as the Melucha is moving from Shaul to David, there's a lot of people who are attacking David, like including Shaul, like meaning that half of the book is the David having to run away for about 15 years from Shaul. So now, if you look at the end of Sefer Rut, just for a second, peek at the end, right? So that exactly. So what's the end of Rut? Perek Daled Pasuk Yudchet. Ve'ele toldot Peretz holid Chetzron, Chetzron holid et Ram, Ram holid et Aminadav, Aminadav holid et Nachshon, and Nachshon holid et Shalma, V'Shalmon holid et Boaz, V'Boaz holid et Oved, okay, Ruth's son, V'Oved holid et Ishai, V'Ishai holid et David. That's the end of Ruth. So, looking at that end, Shmuel writes this book as a tikkun, maybe to Shoftim, time of Shoftim, as showing where are we going to fix Am Yisrael's issues, but as a legitimization of David, meaning it's also to give us a strength as to what were the problems, and who fixed it, and how did we get to Malchut? Okay, so it's part of Shmuel's job was to make the Basof Malchut David, and so Ruth is part of serving that purpose. Okay, that's the ultimate purpose. But again, the tikkun, which I think we're going to feel very much after just learning Shoftim, the tikkun is also what is the seeds that allows the Malchut to come. Like meaning, the way things were going in Shoftim, it wasn't going well, and the solution wasn't coming from there in the book of Shoftim. But here, the root is the process of leading to the tikkun and the beginning of Shmuel. Which will also, please God, if we continue to there, then we'll do that. Okay. Another one introduction is we start off with Vayihi bimei Shvot HaShoftim. And Chazal say in Megillah, but they also say it in Ruth Rabbah, דבר זה מסורת בידינו מאנשי כנסת הגדולה, כל מקום שנאמר ויהי אינו אלא לשון צער. Okay, there's something bad that's happened. And in the Gemara, they bring examples, and then they bring some examples like Vahi Yom Echad in the Bereshit, and they're like, what's the bad thing about that? So then the Gemara actually, that anytime there's Vayehi, there's sadness. And so then they correct it. Amaram Ashi, Kol Vayehi, Ika Hachid, Ika Hachid. Some are like this and some are like this. But Vehi B'Yimei, Eino Alel Lashon Tzar. Every time there's Vehi B'Yimei, that means that there's a sad thing happening. There's something not good for Am Yisrael happening. And then they bring 5 examples. Chamisha, right? Vehi B'Yimei Achashverosh. What's the sad thing there is we're about to be annihilated, maybe, right? Vehi B'Yimei Shvot HaShoftim in Ruth. Vehi B'Yimei Amarpel. That's like the big war that Abraham has to save Lot in. Vehi B'Yimei Achaz. Vehi B'Yimei Yoyakim. Vehi B'Yimei Yoyakim is like the Chorban. So just that we're beginning with this Vayihi B'Yimei Shvot HaShoftim, it's to indicate there's something Zman Tzar for Am Yisrael here. Okay? And okay. So now if let's just read the first pasuk. Okay. Vayihi B'Yimei Shvot HaShoftim, Vehi Rav Ba'aretz, Vayilech Ish Mi Beit Lechem Yehuda, לגור בשדה מואב הוא ואשתו ושני בניו. Okay? So we're in the days of Shvot HaShoftim. There's a Ra'av, which by the way we didn't hear about it in Shvot HaShoftim, in Sefer Shoftim, but apparently at some point there was a Ra'av. Vayilech ish mibeit lechem Yehuda. Does this sound familiar? We've had that, right? We had it in Pilegesh Bagiva, right? It's not going to be as bad. Okay, but somebody from Ish Beit Lechem Yehuda, in that case, in Pilegesh Bagiva, where was he going? He was going up back to Har Ephraim, right? Here, Lagur B'zdei Moab. Okay, here he's going out to Chutz La'aretz. Him, his wife, and his 2 children. Now, first question, Yimei Shvot HaShoftim. Which Shoftim? Okay, what are we talking about? It's actually a machloket. I didn't bring all the opinions, but I did bring 4 in the Rabbah. Number 1, okay, this is Chazal in their sharpness. V'hi b'yimei Shvot HaShoftim, oy ledor sheshaftu et shoftehem. So number 1, there's a problem with the door that they are judging their judges. They're not respecting their judges and giving them their place. Oy ledor sheshoftav tzrichim leishafet. And oy to a door that their shoftim really should be judged. They're not so great. Okay? So okay, we're not in a good place, and we know that. Okay, we've learned that. We learned that for 24 chapters. What we're talking about in Shoftim. And then he quotes Shneimar v'gam al shoftehem lo shamu, and they didn't listen to their shoftim. Okay, but so now who? Umi hayu, Rav Amar Barak v'Dvorah hayu. Why are they saying there's 2? Because it's Shvot HaShoftim. Like there's not like we're not just saying it's the Tkufa whether it's Shoftim. The Chazal are saying there were 2 Shoftim. Okay, so what kind of Tkufa was that? Maybe it was Barak and Dvorah, right? Because Barak was the like sort of military leader, Dvorah was Rav Yoshua ben Levi Omer Shamgar ve'ehud hayu. Okay, those were at the beginning of Shoftim. You remember, they're relatively not big chapters in Shoftim. Ehud ben Gera was the one that killed Eglon Melech Moab. Okay, he's the one who comes at him with a left-handed dagger, and he stabs him, and he's very fat, and he stabs him. And he kills him. He kills the king, and then we manage to defeat Moab, which is interesting to say that it's in his time, because that means they're going to Moab. Moab is not actually, most of the time, Moab is not a problem for us. Like they're not one of the big kingdoms. They're rather more under our. There were times that they're actually under. We are in charge, but in this case, we know that Moab was actually defeated by us in Ohad's time. If we say it's in Ohad's time, okay? Ehud's time, sorry, Ehud's time. So that's the question. And there is a midrash that Ruth is either the daughter or granddaughter of Eglon Melech Moab. Okay, so that would actually fit with this idea, but okay. Okay, so the shoftim means lots, so therefore hashoftim, shvot hashoftim, it's not just 2 judges, there's 3 judges. Okay, so we're also with Yef. Okay, so that, but it's placing it pretty much earlier in the shoftim. Okay. All right, so we said, V'ilech ish mibeit lechem Yehuda, to go to stay Moab. Notice he comes from the Beit Lechem in Yehuda, like Lechem. There's Ra'av, he's from the Beit Lechem, and he's going to stay Moab. What's in our tradition about Moab? That they lo kitvu etanu the lechem and the mayim. Okay. They did not give us in the desert to eat and drink. So he's leaving the place of Lechem, which right now has Ra'av, but he's going to the place where we don't take care of other people. right? To Moab. And okay, so who v'ishto. Okay, now let's read the Malbim, as he brings out a few of these points. יספר הסיבה שהניעה את אלימלך. We're going to learn. Okay, now I want to point out in Pilekesh B'Giva, nobody had a name, right? But they're going to get names here. That's a very big difference. Like here, these people were that important. In another pasuk, they're going to get names. Nachon, Ish is meant to be an important person. But in addition, not only is he an Ish, he gets a name, which means that he was actually known. And okay, so now we're going to read through. Probably going to bring out the Chazal. What do Chazal say? יספר ימי שבות השופטים, יספר הסיבה שהניע את אלימלך לצאת מארץ ישראל לחו"ל, מפני שהיה בימי שבות השופטים, שעל הימים האלה אמר, בימים האלה אין מלך בישראל, איש הישר בעיניו יעשה. Okay, so first of all, we're mentioning the Shvot HaShoftim according to the Malbim, because to remind you in that time what happens, everybody does what they want. There's no melech, there's nobody who's giving authority what should happen if there's a ra'av, if there's no food. So therefore, every person does what they want to do. Okay? וגם לא היה אז שופט אחד מיוחד לכל ישראל, שאז היה שופט עוצר בעם. Okay, so he says it's in a time between shoftim. Okay, remember we had these quiet times between shoftim, so that's what he says. It could be after Shamgar, it could be after Ahud, whatever. That's what he says. ואין מורא שופט על העם. כמו שכתוב, אלמלא מוראה שמלכות איש את רעהו חיים בלעו. Chazal say, if we didn't have, why do we daven for the malchut, like in every country that we ever lived, was because they allow us to live at peace with other people. If there wasn't malchut or any sort of authority, that every person would do as we had in Shvot HaShoftim, right? So here we're saying the problem. We're in Shvot HaShoftim. Okay, so that's the Shvot HaShoftim. Zot shenit, ויהי רעב בארץ, שבימי רעב יתאסרו ההמון העניים על העשירים, ויכריחום לצאת להם לחם ודגן אם לא ייקחו בחוזקה. Okay, because what happens when there's no authority? The poor people go on the rich people, and then they grab the food, even if they, without anybody stopping them. אחר שאין מלך להפיל מוראה להם, על ידי כך, וילך איש מבית לחם יהודה לגור בשדה מואב. Okay, so here we get to the midrash of Chazal that say he was one of the rich and parnasei hador, and he decided, I don't want to have to feed all the poor. Okay, so I'm going away. I'm going to stay Moab. I'm going to leave. All right, so באשר היה איש עשיר, היה ירא שהעניים יפלו עליו וישללו כל השפות, and so forth. And again, this fits this attitude that we talked about with Yoshua. Everybody's doing their own thing. He's doing his own thing. He's not caring about everybody else. He's not caring about the other. Okay? But notice, even though it was a bad time, לא יצא משם רק איש אחד לבד. ויתר העשירים לא השתתפו בזה לצאת לחוצה מארץ ישראל לחו"ל. Okay, but notice, on the one hand, he's doing something really bad. He's leaving and not caring about everybody else. However, he's the only one. Nobody else leaves to go to Moab. Ish echad. And we're giving Dalakam Schut for the door, that not the rest of the Ashirim decided not to leave. But somehow Elimelech decided that he's leaving and he doesn't want to have to deal with this. Okay? וגם בני ביתו של אלימלך לא יצאו ברצון, כי לא רצו לעזוב ארץ חמדה, רק הוא ואשתו ושני בניו שהוא היה העיקר בזה. Okay, so the Malbim takes that it says who ואשתו ושני בניו, that he's the main idea that we're leaving. It's not necessarily that the sons and the wife were with this idea. Okay? So let's go on to the next pasuk. ושם האיש אלימלך, ושם אשתו נעמי, ושם שני בניו מחלון וחילון, אפרתים מבית לחם יהודה, ויבואו שדה מואב ויהיו שם. Okay, now notice in Pasuk Aleph it says lagur. Lagur implies going for a short time. I'm not going there. I'm a ger. I'm not staying. But now it says, okay, that's the first point, is that it says vayavohu sde moav vayu sham, like they actually stayed. They're actually there. Okay. Now we hear Elimelech. El is my melech. That's what his name would be. Naomi would be from Ne'ima, like for ways of opinion. Now Machlon and Kilyon, our first instinct is to think and Klaya, right? It's like, okay, now who gives their kid those names?
But you don't know if they give them the names
or they've changed the names. Miachuz. But actually, I just wanted to point out also that Dat Mikra says that don't think that these names only mean Machala and Klaya, okay? It could be, because he brings other examples from other places, like Machlon, for instance, there's Machelet, okay, and Machol, and it's something sweet. Like it could be, it's actually something positive. And Klayot could be, I have, right, exactly, that I'm yearning for Hashem. Like it's, I'm kaleh for Hashem. Okay? And there's also Klil Yofi. Okay, so just to say it could be, Shmuel changed the names, and just because of their ending. And it could be that they actually got those names, but it actually doesn't mean, and he actually, that Mikra says something interesting. He says it could be they got the names, but actually only afterwards did you realize what the meaning was. Only at the end do you realize the other possibilities of those names that it could be. I just thought it was an interesting point. Really, it looks like who would ever name that name, but it actually could be. There's a reason. Ephratim is like the aristocracy. They're important people. It could be from Ephrat, which was close to Bethlehem, but it also could be, it usually means important and more like the aristocracy, important people. Okay. So here they go. They're important people. Chazal, looking at the psukim carefully, are like, he was an ish, and he decided to leave and go to Sde Moab, to a place where we know is a place of being selfish, right? And he decided to be there. So let's see. We all know what happens, but it's hard to teach psukim that you probably know really well. But there's always more to find, I think. Okay. Vayamat Elimelech ish Naomi, Vatisher he u'shnei banea. Okay. Elimelech does. And here the Malbim says, the Malbim in 7, Vayamat. The Malbim says, V'al-yedei she'eskim l'she'er b'chul ne'enash techet v'yamot. Like, Elimelech is punished right away. Why? Because he was an important person who didn't take his role. Okay, so he's punished. Now, the Malbim is not comfortable with this, that he's, okay, we'll go on with the Malbim. If he's not comfortable with this, that like, what is the first thing you do to somebody is you kill them? Like, that's not the way Hashem works. But first he says something else. Okay, so he was in charge, so he gets punished. Okay, that first he was punished with his money. Hashem doesn't punish people first by killing them. Okay, so this is really interesting. The Malbim, it says they're ish Naomi, but if he had stayed in, let's say he'd stayed in Bethlehem Yehuda and he died there, he would have been called Parnasador, Ashir Habuflad, the special person Elimelech. But all he is now is ish Naomi. Like he's lost his status by going to Sde Moab. Okay, he says, כי אשר גדול כאלימלך הוא בעצמו נודע בשם על ידי עושרו, והיו אומרים שמת אלימלך העשיר. Like they would have given him, they said more about him. But here it's just איש נעמי. וכל שכן, אם היה בארץ ישראל, שם היו אומרים שמת אלימלך פרנס בגדול הדור. אבל אחר שעבד כל עושרו והיה בארץ נכרה, לא נודע בשם, רק שהיה איש נעמי. Okay, that's one aspect of saying איש נעמי. Rashi says a very beautiful thing. Ein adam met ela leishto. The person, the person who would really feel the death is the person who lives with you all the time. The person who, I mean, I think it's also your parents, but maybe not your parents anymore. But yes, right. But that's true. But in Adam, that's that's Rashi. But Malbim takes from it is like he's lost all his status. All he is now is Ishmael. V'tishaer hi v'shnei banea. Okay, so let's say they've gone, and Elimelech was the one who instigated it. So once he dies and loses his money, what would you do?
Go back to the family.
Go back to Beilechem, right? So then the pasuk says, "V'tishaer hi v'shnei banea." They stay. Okay, so it could be they didn't. It's not their fault that Elimelech took them originally, but they did decide to stay. Okay, for whatever reasons. We don't have the reasons here. And here the Midrash in 8. Anyway, in 8, talking about also about her losing her. Okay, I'll bring 8 in a minute. Okay, so they stay. Va'isu lahem nashim mo'aviyot. Okay, not only do they stay, guess what happens? Assimilation. They married the nashim mo'aviyot, and again. Around this time is when the halakha goes out. In the Torah, it says you're not allowed to marry a Moavi and an Ammoni. Around this time, according to Chazal, is when the halakha comes out. You can marry a Moavit, and it's only talking about the men. Okay, it's around this time. So, the fact that though that they took these wives, it's not the truth. Okay, the Moavit is not just a Nachoya. It's mamash Israel in Torah. Like it could be. It's mamash Israel in Torah. At this time is mechadesh the halakha that it's also that we are allowed to marry women of Moab. Shema echat Orpa, v'shema shenit Ruth. V'yashvu sham 10 shanim. Okay. So, like things, I was listening to David Nativ share, and he was like, you know how it happens. You go to Chutz La'aretz, and then you'll come back when your children are older, and then but then you get married, and then it's not till your grandson is older. Like he says this whole thing that it's true. There's that once you're in a different place, then you stay there. Okay, Orpah. So Chazal say that she turned her aura to her mother-in-law, that she'll be the one so that we'll leave. Ruth comes from two, there's two suggestions in Dot Mikra what the name is. Chazal say that she had David that was Roveh Shirot Tishbachot, he wrote Tehillim to Hashem, that's the root. Or it could be from Re'ut, like that she showed such caring to her mother. Okay. Now here we don't know which married which, right? But in at the end we're going to see that Ruth married Machlon, which is also that Chazal say that he was machlulo, or that he had just a machala. Klayon is like there's nothing left from klayon. But machlon is a little bit of a softer word. But that Ruth married machlon. Okay. And they're so we're starting off a little bit feeling the Shvot HaShoftim times, right? Things aren't going the way they're supposed to go. This is not what we're supposed to do. Okay, and they're there for 10 years. Okay, וימותו גם שניהם, מחלון וכליון, ותישאר האישה משני ילדיה ומאישה. Okay, so they also died, right? They stayed, they had wives, they were there 10 years. Yes, they didn't have children, but they died also as a punishment. It seemed as a punishment from staying there. And then Naomi is left just her, right? And notice that it says first Shnei Yeladea. That's what her immediate pain is, right? She's just lost her. and it says ילדיה, like they're grown men. They're her children, it doesn't matter, right? שתי ילדיה and her husband. Okay, and here the Midrash says that she's like shi'urim. Like from the mincha, there's the leftover. And what do you do with the leftover? You're supposed to you have to make sure it's taken care of kodesh. But here she's left not only she's from her husband and from her children. שני ילדיה ומאישה צרות אחרונות משכחות את הראשונות. Okay, my husband died, but my two children just died, and I really have nothing. Like, what am I left with? Okay, it gets better. ותקם היא וכלותיה ותשב משדה מואב כי שמעה בשדה מואב כי פקד השם את עמו לתת להם לחם. Okay, so she gets up and her kalotיה, and here the Malvin says in 9, כולם הסכימו לצאת מן המקום הזה. They all agreed, okay, we need to leave here. This isn't a good place for us. Clearly, it's not working. Okay, כי חשבו שמזל המקום גורם, ולפי זה ביציאה שממנה היו כולם שווים. Like, היא וכלותיה left. Okay. כי שמעה. Now, Naomi has heard that פקד השם את עמו. Okay, לתת להם לחם. Not only did they get lechem, but also Hashem has given them back the lechem. Okay, so what does he learn from this language? First of all, notice that it says twice Sde Moav in the pasuk. Okay, she's heard twice from Sde Moav. Now it could be she could have said, "I'll just move to a different city in Moab." Okay, well, this is not the right place for me. I could just move to another city. But she doesn't. כי שמעה בשדה מואב רוצה לומר כי היא לא שבה מפני מזל רע של המקום או מפני יראת המוות, שאז היה די אם תצא ממקום זה למקום אחר במואב. רק היא שבה מפני כי שמעה בשדה מואב כי פקד השם את עמו לתת להם לחם. Meaning she doesn't just leave to go to a different city because this is clearly a bad luck city for me, but rather, no, she's heard, she's actually in Sde Moab, and she's realizing I need to go back to my home, and Hashem is with us again. לאחר שהיא לא יצאה רק מפני הרעב, ורק לגור עד יפסק הרעב, לכן כששמע לא יישא עוד חרפת רעב בארץ ישראל. Okay, because I only left really because of the ra'av, but now I can go back. But not only that, this I brought because of our ותשופטים times that we go. יש במדרש שבה הרעב בעבור שלא היה ביניהם משפט, ושפטו את שופטיהם, ושופטיהם היו צריכים להישפט. Okay, so why did they have that ra'av in Shvot HaShoftim? Because they weren't treating their shoftim right, and the shoftim really needed to be also weren't okay. Okay? אם כן, כל עוד לא היטיבו מעשיהם, איננה בטוחה שלא ישוב הרעב שנית. How does she know it's not going to be ra'av again? Right? Why? Maybe she's worried about going back. But רק שהיא שמעה שהשם פקד את עמו, רוצה לומר שלא עזר זה בעבור שמו, רק בעבור העם שהיטיבו מעשיהם. She's in a time where Hashem returns good for good, so therefore she was like, once she heard though that apparently the Am is doing better, so therefore Hashem is really going to give us lechem and it's not going to be another ra'av, then she's willing to go back to her home. Right, that she's
because she could have looked at it in another way. When her husband said we're going, she had no choice but to go. When her husband died, her sons are adults, and they are more or less the mefarnesim. She's dependent on them, so she stays with them. Now that they're all dead, she is her own boss, and she could decide to go back.
Now she's finally saying, okay, I'm going back, because I really wanted to be there. Yeah. נכון. 100%. But I think he's medayek in the pasuk. What was important to say? Meaning that the pasuk itself is telling you it wasn't just maybe that. It's also that she saw something's changed in Eretz Yisrael. That's what I think he meant. Okay. ותצא מן המקום אשר הייתה שמה, ושתי כלותיה עמה. ותלכנה בדרך לשוב אל ארץ יהודה. Okay, so they leave the place, and then she and the kalot are with her, and they start going back towards going to Judah.
Just in Bethlehem?
היה רב בארץ. היה רב
So
בארץ.
that's where they went to.
Yeah, I mean,
They could have gone somewhere else.
there's more than, נכון, 100%, and other people didn't go to Moab, but they decided, oh, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to Chul, I'm going to keep my money, and I'm going to, yeah. Okay, so, sorry, I had something to say. Okay. Okay, so she leaves the place, and the two kalot are with her. She's going b'derech to go back there to Yehuda. So here, actually the mom says this, but like this. At first she thought they're just milaveher, like they're coming with her. But then she sees like they're actually coming back with her, and then she starts thinking. Okay, and here the Dad Mikra has like an interesting there's a lot of different ways, a lot of things that could be going through Naomi's head. Okay, her kalot are coming with her. What do they represent? Her sons. Okay, yafeh. So they are. It's really nice that they're coming. They're support. They're the connection to the sons. Okay, what more do they represent?
They represent all the sadness in their life and
Not just the sadness,
the
the wrongness. Meaning like they're also Moaviot. They're Moaviot. It could be. Now, even Ezra said they did convert something before. The question is, what did they convert before or not? But like, still, they still represent what the things that went wrong. Not only that, let's say she's going back to her home. What is everybody else going to say? Like, again, I think we all have, and we're going to see. People are going to have what to say. Hazot Naomi, right? But so also when she's coming back, what is it? And we're going to see also they're going to constantly call Ruth Moaviyah. Like it's also a stain. It's also a positive and it's also a stain. Okay, so it's a question. Now it's nicer for her to be living with other people, not to be alone. But on the other hand, what are they going to do? And Moaviyot aren't taken so well will people really marry them? And we're going to see it's a big deal to marry them. Like are people, what's going to happen with them? Like it's also a responsibility. Like there's different sides to it. So the Dad Mikra, I think, brings it out quite nicely. In 10, לפי תפיסה זו, קיבלה נעמי תחילה את הליכתה איתה כהצטרפות טבעית. אבל תוך כדי הליכה, עלה בדעתה כי לא טוב הדבר לעתידן ללכת איתה. Okay, so it could be also she's concerned for them, but there's also concern for her. There's different things. שהיא עכשיו אלמנה זקנה ועלובה. Okay, she's a widow, she's old, and she's poor. אף על פי שנעמי עצמה טוב יותר לדור יחד עם שתי אנשים. צעירות. Like, it's, as we saw, we're going to see, it's better for her that she has roots. There's a lot Ruth can do that she doesn't necessarily have koach for. שמא מתגוששים בליבה של נעמי רגשות שונים. Okay, maybe she has different feelings here. מצד אחד ייתכן שהנשים הצעירות האלו תגרומנה להקים שם בישראל לשני בניה, כשתגאלנה על ידי שער בשר. So on the one hand, the two wives do have a potential of bringing, like as we're going to see, that's going to happen with Ruth, of bringing some sort of hemshechiyut to her children, because if somebody else marries, is goel them, and then has a child, it's on the name of the met, which is really what's going to happen in the end. That's a possibility. מצד שני, ייתכן כי שתי הצעירות הללו משמשות לה מזכרת עוון בניה אשר נשאו נשים נוכריות. Okay? So like we said, it could be that they just remind her all the time of what went wrong. וחז"ל דרשו בעניין זה את הכתוב בפסוק בגילה, כי מר לי מאוד מכם, we're going to see it soon, בשבילכם, I'm also worried for you, חז"ל say. כי יצא בי ובני ובעלי יד השם. Also, she's had a lot of punishment in her life. Who knows if by them joining her, they're going to get punishment in their life, right? So there's so many aspects that this might not be a good reason. ושמא היא חושבת וחוששת ששתי, and this is an aspect that I haven't thought of, חוששת ששתי הנשים הצעירות תרצנה לפתוח בחיים חדשים ללא כל יחס לזיכרון יקיריה. What if in the end they don't really want to have anything to do with Machlon and Kilion? That's true, they're coming with her. But what if in the end they decide, no, and we're going to just marry whoever we feel like and not try to bring the Shem Amet? And then what was it good for her that they came, right? So it's all these aspects going into it. I think it's very real. Like in life, there isn't like one reason to do things. There's like a lot of different things that motivate us. פסוק ח' ותאמר נעמי לשתי כלותיה לך נשבנה אישה לבית אמה יעשה השם עמכם חסד כאשר עשיתם עם המתים ועמדי. Okay, so all these things are going through her head, but she decides, I'm going to try to send them back. This is not the right thing for them. You girls go back to your homes of your mothers. Hashem should do chesed with you. She gives them a bracha. Like you did to the Meitim and with me, the fact that they come with her, the fact that they sit with her, the fact that they, Chazal say that there was difficulty burying them, the brothers, because they didn't really have money, and they give up on their ketubah, they give up on anything that is owed to them. They really are caring to Naomi and the sons. ייתן השם לכם ומצאנה מנוחה אישה בית אישה ותשק להם ותישנה קולן ותבכנה. Okay, so and she gives them a bracha further that you should each find another husband and menucha with your husband and she gives them, she kisses them and she says, but they, how do they react? No, we don't want to go. We don't want to go, and they're crying. Okay. ותאמרנה לה, כי איתך נשוב לעמך. At this stage, they both say, we want to go back with you. Like we want to go with you. Now it's interesting. Nashuv la'amech. She's going back. They're not going back, right? They're coming with her. But they really give them a lot of credit. They both want to go back with her, even though she's told them they could have easily left now. They've done their duty. They've done their livui. They've done their part. They didn't have to continue that. But they say no. We want to come with you. ותאמר נעמי, שבנה בנותיי, למה תלכנה עמי? העוד בנים במאי והיו לכם לאנשים? Okay, so now she's like, it doesn't make any sense for you to come with me. I don't even have, let's say you want to come with me and be with me, like, I don't even have at the moment children in my womb that even if I had, right, and they'll be for you husbands, שוב נבנותיי לכנה, כי זקנתי להיות לאיש. כי אמרתי, יש לי תקווה, גם הייתי הלילה לאיש, וגם ילדתי בנים. הלהן תשברנה, עד אשר יגדלו, הלהן תעגנה. ובלתי להיות לאיש על בנותיי, כי מר לי מאוד מכם, כי יצא ביד השם. Okay? Well, even if I had children, what you'd wait, tishberena, is like, is you're waiting for something to save you. Okay? The shever of the ra'av, that's also called a shever. Like it's like when something is broken, like you've broken the difficult thing. Are you going to wait for them to grow up until you have husbands?
Well, why
yeah.
does this say le'i instead of rachel?
בתוך מאי.
Yeah.
Good question.
Because we do have the word rachel.
Yeah, we do. We do. Yeah. No, you're right. No, I'd have to look into that. Why didn't they eat? I don't know. I didn't think about it. I have to look into it. I don't know. I'll look it up. Wait, can I send it? Okay, so now her arguments are very much like worried about them. Like, there's no future for you to come with me, right? It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't have children, I don't have more children, and you're not going to wait for those. It doesn't make sense to wait for those children. And kimar li me'od mikem, and that maker says it's either it's hard for her for them, or it's also marli mikem, like it's hard for her that who they are, meaning because they represent the difficult the chet to Hashem. Ki yatsa b'yad Hashem. Hashem's punishment. Okay. Vatisana kolan vativkena od. Vatishak orpa lechamota lerut davka b'cha. Okay, so they cry more, but in the end, orpa decides, okay, I'm going back. Which Chazal are very charif with her, by the way, that she actually turns her orif, and they say that Orpa is the mother of Goliath. Okay, so the descendant of David, the descendant of Ruth, David, beats Goliath. Okay, so that's interesting. That it seems to us when we read these psukim, like it makes sense for her to leave. Like Naomi has a good argument. And it's okay. Like, what's wrong with what Orpah did? Right? What's wrong with what Orpah did? It seems like she was quite fair. But there's something about what Ruth does that is mi'ever ladin. Something about what Ruth does is so good that it puts Orpah in a bad light also. But I think this is one of the first things in this Megillah that's about tikkun, is that Ruth is doing something, as we see through Naomi's argument, that doesn't make sense. She's going to a place where she's considered an achuyah, she's considered something not so good, who knows if she'll marry anybody, who knows of what she does, but she decides, I'm dveka with Naomi anyway, for Naomi. Like it's the opposite of everything we've said up to now, right? The thinking about yourself. I'm not going to deal with all these poor people coming to my door. I'm not what Elimelech does, right? Everything that we were saying was negative. This is the first example of somebody doing the opposite. Okay, and also Naomi's concern for her daughters-in-law, I think, would also fit that category. That even though there might be this side that maybe it's also not the greatest for her, but I think she's also clearly in the Pesukim concerned about them. And I think it's ironic, or I don't think it's stam, is that it's coming from the Moaviyah. The Moavim, who are the ones, shelo kidmu otanu b'lechem v'mayim, she's the one who's going beyond herself to take care of Naomi, and we're going to see also feed Naomi, right? Mamash beyond herself, beyond what is expected. Okay. What does Ruth say? ותאמר, הנה שבה יבמתך אלוהיך ואלוהיה, שובי אחרי, oh no, this is sorry, Naomi says, הנה שבה יבמתך אלוהיך ואלוהיה, שובי אחרי יבמתך. Okay, so here Naomi points out that once they, now this is the pasuk that Ibn Ezra says, they actually must have done some sort of conversion before, because Naomi is saying Orpah has gone back to her God and to her people. Okay, so somehow they had accepted Naomi's people and God, but now she's going back. Okay, there's I guess because according to the Moavim, you go into a family, you're with their God. And Naomi says to her, go back to your Vermont and do the same thing. Okay, go back to your people and your God. It doesn't make sense. And okay, so now what does it say? ותאמר רות, אל תפגעי בי לעוזבך, נשוב מאחורייך, כאשר תלכי אלך, ובאשר תלילי עלים, עמך עמי, ואלוקייך אלוקי. Okay, and Ruth's like, stop asking me to go back. I don't want to leave you, and I don't want to lashuv. Not only do I not want to leave you, by leaving you, I'm lashuv machoraych. I'm abandoning you. Because wherever you go, I'll go. Wherever you sleep, I'll sleep. Your people is my people, and your God is my God. Okay, and by the way, we learn Hilchot of Gerut from from these psukim with Ruth. Right? Okay, so okay. I wanted to bring. Oh, no. There was a really nice, I forgot to bring this, but there was a really nice malbim about, next person. ואשר תמותי אמות, ושם אקבר, כה יעשה השם לי וכה יוסיף, כי המוות יפריד ביני ובינך. Okay, so wherever you die, I will die. That's where I'll be buried. That's what Hashem should do for me. He should add to it, and he should add. Only death can divide between me and you. So it's actually interesting. Like, why does she talk about death?
Experience so much death, so it's only natural that they think
They think about death. Okay, so that's one aspect. I wanted to bring the Malbim, who says this is her all these steps is Ruth accepting Gerut, okay? And he says this is the ultimate accepting of Torah Yisrael. I'm sorry I didn't bring it, but I'll read it to you. וצריך שמגמת הליכתי עמך מפני שראיתי והבנתי שהמוות ישים הבדל גדול בינינו. שהגם שבחיים דבקתי עמך, let's say I stay with you and I'm with you, but if I stay in Moavia and you're a Jew, then when we die, we're going to be separated. שהאדם שהדת תפריד בינינו וכל זה, היינו מחוברים יחד באהבה. You can love somebody who's not Jewish. It's not that you can't love somebody who's not Jewish, אבל אחר המוות נהיה מופרדים. Because you'll be עתיד בקי באלוקי הרוחות, ואני אהיה בדעבדי עבודה. I'll be stuck with all the עבדי עבודה זרה that don't have a המשכיות in עולם הבא. ולכן אבקש להתגייר שאז לא נפרד גם במוות. Because even when we die, we won't be separated. Although she does say we are free anyway. But that בדבריה עלה גילתה כי כבר נכונים בליבה כל יסודי האמונה, מציאות השם ואחדותו. The Malbim says that by talking about death and saying that she wants to die like Naomi, she's showing יסודי האמונה of Hashem, in Hashem and אחדותו. And in Torah Yisrael ומנהגיהם, רוצה לומר שלך בדרך טובים ובדרכי התורה, וכן האמינה בהישארות הנפש, ובשכר ועונש של עולם הבא. That Ruth is proving that she believes that also in Olam Haba, after the Mavet, there is some din and cheshbon, which is one of the yesodot of emunah in Am Yisrael. And that's why she's also talking here about Moshe Amar, B'sher Tamuti Amut B'sham Mekaver. So, I mean, I thought it was really cool, like that one of our basic parts of emunah is the Hisharut HaNefesh and Shema, and that there is a deen that happens after death. Okay? All right. כי המוות יפריד ביני ובינך. ותראה כי מתאמצת היא ללכת איתה, ותחדל לדבר איתה. Okay? And Naomi says, okay, I give up. I pushed her off. By the way, we also hear, we learn about Gerim, that you have to 3 times say no to them, and then you stop arguing with them. That's also learned from here. Okay. ותלכנה שתיהן עד בואנה בית לחם, ויהי כבואנה בית לחם, ותהום כל העיר עליהן ותאמרנה, הזאת נעמי. Okay? So they see that, okay, so they go shtihem, which the Tat Mikra says, maybe they just each were in their thoughts. Naomi's thinking about the fact that these are the ways are places she's seen before. How did I leave here? How am I coming back? And Ruth's thinking, wow, what's it going to be like there? I don't have no idea. I've never been there. Like I thought, again, it's like insightful as to like the different places the two of them are. also Rashi, I brought the Rashi, that here we learn Shtehem, Telechna Shtehem. Root is now equal to Naomi. Gerim are equal to non-Gerim. Like we accept them as equal to us, even though they've converted. It's something that we are used to, but that we show here in the Pasuk, that we go together equal. Tahom Kola'ir, so the Midrash says that Boaz's wife just died. And that's the commotion that was happening there. But Malbim says Tahom Kola'ir, because they're like, this is Naomi, who used to leave with slaves and servants and who had so much wealth. This is Naomi who's coming back. Like, and this is of course what Naomi was worried about also. And how does Naomi? So they're all taken aback. Is this how Naomi's coming back? Her and her Moabite daughter-in-law, so poor in rags. But tomorrow lehen al tikrena li Naomi, karena li mara, ki hemer shadai li meod. Don't call me Naomi anymore, because Hashem punished me a lot. Ani mele'ah halachti v'reikam hashivani Hashem, lama tikrena li Naomi, v'Hashem ana bi v'shadai hirab. Okay, here we hear the bitterness of Naomi, right? That she's like saying, don't call me Naomi, and the Malbim even goes into, I'm not going to read it through right now, but I thought it was really nice. He goes into how, like, maybe the way Naomi is seeing it is that sometimes Hashem, when he's about to punish somebody, he brings them up higher, and then they fall even lower. And that she's feeling this, don't even call me Naomi. I don't even deserve that name from before. Like, everything that was from before led to this. So therefore, that Naomi, that's not the reality. I'm Mara. You should just call me Mara. Anyway, so I'm going to end here. but it's true, and we see here the difficulty and the negativity. But I think from here we start seeing also the roots who is sticking to her and is doing the chesed, and then slowly throughout the Megillah everybody does this chesed that in the end leads to a better place. And okay.
Thank you.
I don't know if we'll finish. I don't think we'll finish by Shavuot. Mostly. You know the story anyway.